welcome back to Crafters TV. I hope you've had a pleasant hour. Did you have some lunch or was it breakfast? It was lunch for Jan and I. We both ate quite healthy actually, and we avoided the chocolate bar, so we were very good. So I hope you've had a lovely morning, or yeah, I suppose morning for most people wherever you are. Well, evening if you're over in Australia or somewhere like that. But yeah, hope you're having a lovely day. And did you enjoy this morning's shows? It was great fun, wasn't it? Just to give you a little taster of everything we've got today. Now, this now is our craft along, and we're going to pop to that in a minute. But I'm going to quickly get all of the housekeeping out of the way so that we can forget about all of the boring bits and focus on the craft along. Now, this weekend, we've got our Taste of weekend event, and our Taste of weekend event is to sort of give you a hint of what it would be like to be a Club Inspire member, or on the next level if you are already a Club Inspire member. So if you are already a Club Inspire member and you're just starting off and you're down on bronze, then today or this weekend you're going to get 10% off all orders. Doesn't matter if you place 1 order or 4 orders, you're going to get 10% off each of those. If you're a silver member, as it says on there, you're going to get 15%, because normally you get 10. If you're a gold, instead of getting 15, you're going to get 20. And if you're right at the top of the tree and as a platinum member, if instead of getting 20% off all of your orders, you're going to get a whopping 25% or a quarter knocked off your orders. Now, if you are a new Club Inspire member, you've never ordered before as a Club Inspire member, then you're going to jump straight to platinum just for your first order, and we'll give you 25% off. You still get your 250 bonus points as well to get you on your way to being bronze. So there we go, that's perfect, isn't it? And the other thing we need to just to let you know that today we've got a few offers on. So I've got them written down here. So that one, there we go. We've got our, which one we're going to go? We're going to go to our Spectrum Noir tools and accessories. So you're going to get 10% off all of your Spectrum Noir tools and accessories. If you go to the website, you'll see the little sticker on each item to show you their 10% off. That's off the tools. Now, off the single pens, and we think it's just the classic pens and also the re-inkers, you're going to be able to get 3 for 2. So that's an absolute bargain. Then you're going to get your platinum discount off that as well. And the other one is, now this one is a single purchase. So for one time only, you can purchase a gift voucher for someone. If minimum spend is £10, $10, €10. If you do that today or tomorrow, then we will give you a £5 voucher for yourself. So buy a gift voucher for somebody else of at least £10 value, and we will give you £5 for yourself. So I mean, that's just absolutely perfect, isn't it? So you can see all of the details. Oh, they were just down there. So that's all of the sort of housekeeping to do. Now, shall we have a look? We are here today for the next 2 hours, and we're back to 2-hour shows for each of our slots on a weekend. We are going to be doing the craft along, and we're here all day, of course, with our lovely Jan. Good afternoon, Jan.
Good afternoon. Yes. We're all, we've had a nice bit of lunch, we've had a little chat and put the world to rights, so we're all good to go. And I must admit, this is one of my favourite shows, Corrine. I love
You said
the
that, yes.
Alongs, yeah. I haven't done one for many, many months actually, since well before Christmas. Just the way the schedules fall, just depends who's here and who's available. So I don't think I've done anything wrong. I think it's just the way it happens. So yeah, thrilled to be back. And I love the collection that we're working with as well. So if you weren't watching earlier, I'm just going to show you what we're going to be making, and then I'm going to hand back over to Corrine just to show you the collection. But we've got, it's just over 7 by 5, I think, in total. I think it's 7.5 by 5.5 by 3/4 of an inch. It's almost like a little book card, and I've used the folder on the front, so we're going to use that, a bit of inking, bit of gilding wax on the front, and then I've just trapped some ribbon under that front layer. And when we open it up inside, we're going to build our own frame. So we've actually got the depth of frame inside there with another emboss piece. Now, I chose Mother's Day because in a couple of weeks here in the UK we celebrate our Mother's Day, but obviously this can be any sentiment. And again, I've done a little bit of embellishing over on some of the papers here, which again, you know, I'll show you which dies I've used, but they can be any embellishment dies, or you can just leave it plain. You can put a piece in to write a message in. I actually popped some on the back just to cover up where the ribbon is, and then you can write a message. Sadly, I lost my mum a few years back, but I just thought it was a nice opportunity to celebrate with everybody.
It's certainly.
So that's where we're heading.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Right, now, if you want to do this, just to show you, we have got our diamonds. So these, the set is, each one, you've got 4 lots, you've got a 3D embossing folder, and then your nesting frame. So you get 4 of your nesting frames. So you've got your diamond, you've got your rectangle. Look at this, look at the 3D emboss, it's absolutely beautiful. Then you've got your oval, and then you've got your square as well. So those today are, the price for today is £35.96 or $46.42. But if you are a Platinum member with that extra discount, it's going to be £26.97 or $34.97. I think that's about right. Anyway, it'll all come up on the screen when you do that. So if you want to do that, then pop those in your basket. Now, I know a few people have got them. A couple of people commented earlier. Now, craft along. Yes, you can be crafting along at home, but how we like to do it is to get a viewer to craft along with us. And today we've got Elaine crafting with us. Welcome, Elaine. Oh, just a minute, just a minute. Liam's pressing the button. There we go. Hello, Elaine. You all right? You ready to go?
Yes.
Brilliant. I'm going to be very rude. I don't know the answer, Elaine. Where are you? Where in the world are you?
I'm in Florida, in Homosassa.
Nice.
Perfect. Is it nice and warm there?
It's about 75 degrees already.
Oh, a bit warmer than here. We're supposed to be getting a really big cold snap, so yes, you're definitely in the right place. So yes, that's very nice. I like that. And you said you did a craft along about a month or so ago.
Yes, with Debbie Fisher.
Brilliant, brilliant. So you know the format, you know how we'll keep popping back and seeing your take on it as well. Have you actually made anything with this embossing folder and die set yourself before?
Not yet.
Not yet. Brilliant. Okay, so you've got the best to teach you how to do this today, so that will be really good. Now, shall we say hello to everyone and then we'll do the shopping list after that? So let's see who is here with us. We've still got Rachel on the socials and viewers clocking in with us today. We've got Mary Smith, good afternoon everyone. We've got Lois saying good morning everyone from Ohio. Teresa Campbell says hello everyone, happy crafting. Carol McDaniel, good morning crafty friends. Zoe Carver is good afternoon everyone. Kerry Carney says hello from a cold and super windy Virginia. My small dogs went out and the wind knocked them over.
Oh bless,
now,
need them on a piece of string.
That's not good, that's not good. We've got Karen Fisher says hello everyone from Florida. She's also in Florida. Evelyn Kiefer says good morning everyone from beautiful Colorado. And Jane Austin says good morning everyone from Illinois. Right now, hopefully there's a lot more of you watching, so those will all come through as Rachel gets to see them and you put them on there. So I think we should get straight on with starting with the craft along. And are you happy to tell us what we need for this then, Jan?
I think we've got a voiceover.
We've got a voiceover, have we? Oh no.
Are we what?
We're putting it on the big
screen.
screen.
On the big screen.
So you can read it.
I'm lost.
Yeah,
It didn't
no,
work.
what they were hoping to do didn't work.
Technology. I thought
They were
said,
obviously going to try and
"Here
do
we go,
something
look.
else.
Here we go. So, are we right at the beginning here?
I think we are.
Absolutely. So obviously then the focus today was that 3D embossing folder with nesting dies. So I've used the rectangle, but it will work with any of them. So don't worry if you don't have the particular one that I'm using. You're also going to need I use the Gemini mini die with love. Again, that can be any die. And then I've got opaque pigment inks in pink tulip and green topaz, just for a little bit of ink work. And then gilding wax in king gold. All right, so again, they're all colours that I chose. It will work in different colours. As far as the actual sort of card and paper side of it is from the Say It With Flowers collection. I've just got one sheet from that pad and I'm going to be using both sides, the plain side and the pattern side, and I chose one of the sort of tealy green ones. And then the A4 linen cardstock, which is the pink, is from that paper pack, that card pack with the Say It with flowers as well. But again, piece of A4 in the colour you choice. Multi-purpose cardstock, I've got about 3, maybe 4 sheets of that we're going to use. Centura Pearl, I chose baby pink to go with my colour scheme, just 1 sheet of Centura. And then I had some rose gold mirror card, which was actually out of our metallics. It's a luxury pack that's got glitter card, mirror card, self-adhesive glitter card and satin card in it. It came out with the carnival pack, so mine was out of there, but again, whatever your choice of mirror card is to go with it. Length of ribbon, around about 30 inches of ribbon that we're going to wrap the whole way around the project and tie if you want a closure on it. And then again, self-adhesive pearls. You know that my projects aren't finished without those. We're going to need some kind of Gemini machine. I'm going to pop the folder through my big Gemini and I'm going to cut the nesting dies with the little mini, so whatever you have around. The folders will need sort of the platform for the junior or the midi to go through there. And we need a guillotine, we need the score master, we need some kind of scoreboard to do the scoring. And then I tend to refer to this now as a general toolkit. You're pretty much on board with this. So all your general tools that you normally have out on your desk. So we need scissors, pokey tool, we need a blending tool for the inks. I always pop a ruler and a pencil on there just in case we need to measure anything up. Tacky glue, the tape pens, we're going to need some foam pads, some red liner tape and some low tack tape just to hold things in place. So yeah, general stuff that you normally have out on your desk. So I think if we just give everybody a minute or so if they haven't got that together, and then we'll get started straight into the project.
Yep. That sounds absolutely perfect. Just to say, oh, we've got Kathleen White has said, good morning from Pennsylvania. Can't wait to see how this is done. I'm looking forward to it because as you said to Jan, I said, oh, what die set are you using to make the frame? She went, I'm not. We're going to do it from scratch. So I, too, am really looking forward to this because I know that if I was to do this, we'd probably end up with a parallelogram rather than a nice square or a trapezium or one of those because, yeah, getting the corners right. So I am really looking forward to seeing how Jan shows us how to make that frame from scratch as well. So, yeah, it'll be really, really interesting. OK, Jan, so I'm going to throw it over to you and say, shall we get started?
Yep.
And then we will keep checking back in with Elaine and see how she's doing.
Absolutely.
And give everyone a chance to catch up when we get to bits where it naturally
I'll put
stops.
lots of natural pauses in there so that you've got time to catch up with me, and I don't go at an alarming rate anyway. This is what's nice about having the 2 hours back. We can really take our time and do this in real time. I have absolutely nothing prepared. When you see us demoing normally, it's like one I've prepared earlier, one I've done at home, absolutely nothing. This is all my stuff that I brought with me. I've got that sheet of paper from the Say It with flowers, and we're going to be using part of that pattern in the inside here. You can see this one, and then there is actually a piece of the plain just as part of the matte layer under the front. So that was my choice out of the Say It with flowers. Again, any paper pad. I've got some multi-purpose card. I've got a piece of the pink linen out of that same range. I've got that beautiful rose gold mirror card. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you've only got gold or silver, it will work just as well. And then this is what was left of my pink. I had a full sheet of A4 pink Centura Pearl, but obviously I used an element of it in here, so I've just brought the offcut because there'll be enough to cut this out of it. Okay, so that's the bulk of the sort of paperwork. Now what I want to do to start off with is concentrate on the actual book frame and the actual frame inside it. Okay, and then we'll cut the extra elements to do the matting and layering and the folder and everything. So I just want to get these base bits cut and get that frame put together relatively quickly. I'm not going to go that fast that people can't keep up, but I have done the frame on a previous craft along. So if you've done this with me in the past, I think we did one in craft card when I showed you how to make the deconstructed frame. And what I mean by that is we make all 4 sides separately and put it together. So once you understand the principle of how this works, you can adapt that to be, you could make it a 6x6 frame. You could make it a really tall length of A4 by a really narrow frame. Once you understand how these work, and it's so simple, it literally will go together in any shape or form. So, first thing I'm going to bring out, and this is what I know, this is how I normally work at home. Once I've sketched out roughly what I want to do and had a look at products and things like that, I do the die cutting first. Now, I'm going to keep it in two sections today. I'm going to die cut what we need for the case and the frame and get that put together, and then we'll die cut the matte layer pieces, because I don't want you to end up with piles of cardstock that you don't know which bit goes where. So I've got my large guillotine at the ready, extension arm out and the little foot down, so that I know I've got a perfectly accurate line here. And I'm going to take one of my pieces of all-purpose cardstock, so the white cardstock, and I'm going to cut this one down, and I'm going to leave the A4 length along the long side. All right, I'm going to turn it round, and here in the UK this measures 8 1/4. If you're over in the States and you have 8 1/2, we're going to take the whole thing down to 7 1/2. So just line that up on your guillotine at 7 1/2, and we're just going to make a nice long vertical cut, and that's going to be the outside frame. We're going to pop a couple of score lines in here in a second to make the spine, and that's going to be the wraparound piece for the card. So I'm going to pop that to one side. Then we need to make the pieces for the frame. And when I say deconstructed, I mean that each one of these is a separate piece. So we're going to cut 4 pieces, 2 long ones and 2 short ones that are going to make the frame itself. So on our next piece of multi-purpose card then, I need to make, let me just check my measurements. We need 2, let me think which way around I'm going to do this. 7 1/2, which will come out that way. Right, so we need 2. I'm going to cut the whole thing down to 7 1/2 again to start off. I think that will make life a little bit easier. So I'm going to take the short side and cut the whole thing down to 7 1/2 inches. So we're going to take that same piece off here, okay? And then I'm going to rotate, and I want 2 pieces that measure 2 3/4. I'll go through all the measurements again when we've cut them. So I'm just going to bring this over at 2 3/4. Make sure that everything's nicely lined up. I use the edge here and then the lines in the guillotine just as an extra insurance. That's 1 at 2 3/4, and then I want a second one at 2 3/4. So this is going to be the long sides of our frame. Okay, so same again. So I've got both of the long sides, which are the same height as our frame that we've just cut. Okay, so pop those to one side. And then we need 2 more pieces to do the top edge and the bottom edge, which is slightly shorter. So they need to measure 5 1/2. Okay, so the piece that I've got left, I'm just going to trim down to 5 1/2 inches. Okay, and then when I turn that round, we need 2 pieces that are 2 3/4 again. So I'll write you all this down in a second so that you can get this all cut. So that's 1 at 2 3/4 and the second one at 2 3/4 there. Okay, so we've just got a little bit of scrap left there. So let me just pop that to one side, and then what I will do on here, we did the cover was our A4 by 7 1/2 inches. Then we needed 2 pieces that measured 7 1/2 by 2 3/4. And then we needed 2 pieces that measured 5 1/2 by 2 3/4. All right, so if I leave you that there, you can take a quick screenshot. I'm just going to have 30 seconds or so break to make sure that everybody's at that point, and then we'll do some scoring on the card.
Perfect.
Okay.
I think I can see where we're going from that. I can see the wallet forming, and I can see the sides for the frames. I mean, Mary Pat 1000 said these frames are one of those impressive projects that are much easier to make than they look. So yes, so hopefully, yeah. Polyco says, Florida here. Also, we've got a few people in from Florida. Happy day, a Jan Brown craft along. And Kathleen says, I love when directions are posted. I print them and put them in a binder. Or as Jan's just put it, she puts it on the screen so you can copy it down and make your own sheets. And then you can put those in your binder too. So yes, I do know people love to write it down. And I do too. I've got reams of them for different shape cards and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, there's lots of you doing long. I think Elaine's got those cut because she sat sat very still. Does that mean, Elaine, that you're done those? You've followed those instructions?
Yes.
Perfect, that's all right. Starting off nice and simple. She's lulling you into a false sense of security.
Honestly,
No, she's not.
it's not difficult.
It's not difficult,
It's
she
just
says,
breaking
so.
it down into the sections, and honestly, this one's not that difficult. I
Okay.
have done some that are a bit more challenging, but very, very straightforward.
Excellent.
Oh,
well,
good.
I think that's a good sign then for you to carry on then, please, Jan.
Right, so I'm just looking at my my scoring. Let me just double check. Did I write down where I needed to score? I think we're okay there, yep. So, on your largest piece then, that's going to create the folder here, this is going to wrap all the way round. All right, so we've got a 5.5 width on each side, and because ours is that funny measurement here in the UK, I left it the same length as A4, and it's a really weird measurement because we've got that sort of little extra bits like 11 3/4 and sort of a fly's eyelash on the edge of it. So whatever yours is, you want to make sure that you've got a 5.5 inch panel, and then I think the bit in the middle here, if I remember, measured 5/8. Yes. So what I did with mine, now this might just be worth bearing in mind if you're using 11 inch card, you're going to need that extra length out of there. So if you've got 8.5 by 11, it's not going to be quite long enough. You would have needed a long 12 inch piece. All right, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it up the left hand side. I'm working on my inches, and I'm going to come across to 5.5 inches and score. So that's given me my front or my back, which is 7.5 by 5.5. And then I'm going to turn the whole thing round, okay, and do 5.5 again. All right, so that's given me, again, a front or a back that is 5.5 by 7.5. The bit that's left in the middle now, you should have a set of parallel lines there, which are really hard to see on that white card. He's coming to have a look.
Oh, we can see
them?
that there.
There
Yeah.
they go, look, yeah? At just about 5/8 of an inch, which is about the depth of the frame that we're going to make. All right, because I measured it all perfectly. So that one's just as it is, okay? And then on the pieces that we cut that are going to be the sides, if I take the first one, and I'm going to write you these down because some of you will go quicker than others. So we're going to score, and if I leave this at the side, it saves me keep repeating myself. We're going to score at 3/8. We're going to score at 1 inch, at 1 3/4 inches, and 2 3/8. So let me just translate that into here. If I leave that there, you can see that there. So on my scoreboard then, I'm going to go 3/8. Now if you're not familiar with the scoreboard, each of ours is 1/8 marking along the inch side. So 3/8, I literally just want to be in the third track, and I'm going to do a vertical score line all the way down the length of that card. Okay, and then the next one, leaving it in place, comes over to 1 inch. Okay, that's the next one. And I always give it a couple of goes rather than pressing on too hard. And then 1 3/4 inches. Okay, and then again at 2 and 1 2/3. Okay, so what we've done then, our frame is actually going to be 3/4 of an inch wide, which is that second panel. It's going to be 5/8 of an inch deep, which are the two sides, which was the same as the gap that we had left in the frame. And then the 2 3/8 of an inch on either side are going to form the second 3/4 of an inch. So when I fold this now, and we're going to do the same on all of these, when I actually fold this through now, I'm just going to do it quickly to show you what I mean, and you'll get the idea of where we're at.
Because all your panels were 2 3/4 inches wide,
Yes,
weren't they?
it's
all
the same
four?
scoring on them all. The little one, I'm going to do an extra score line. But what I wanted to show you is when this is folded, the two little 3/8 of an inch panels make the other side, which is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so this is literally going to be one side of our frame.
Yeah.
And you can just see we've got that sort of tube going on.
So they butt up rather than overlap? They butt up to each other, those two edges?
No, we're going to miter them.
No, sorry, on the back.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
yes, sorry, yes, these,
Sorry.
yeah. You
Yeah.
can do it where you've got the whole of this as a 3/4 of an inch, but what I find is you've just got this side then that's not attached to anything. So I prefer to do it this way because then you've got both of these are going to be sealed.
Yeah.
These two skinny edges are going to be sealed against the card. All right, so that's the principle of it. I'm going to do exactly the same on this one, okay? And then I'm going to come to the little ones, all right, which are the same, but there's a little bit of an addition. So if I bring this into place again, you can see we've got 3/8 of an inch. So it's exactly the same vertical scoring down the length of it. 3 inch, 1 inch, 1 3/4, and 2 3/8. Okay, so we've done exactly the same on this one as we did here, but then I want you to rotate this one. It doesn't matter which side because these both measure the same. So I want you to rotate it onto the short side, and then this is the bit that we have to be careful with. We're going to go at 3/4 of an inch, but I'm only going to come down to the second score line. So I'm going to go past that skinny one and down across that 5/8 and stop when it meets the second horizontal score line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to come over to this edge and I'm going to do 4 3/4 and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put my finger at the second score line just to remind me. And literally we're crossing the first score line here, that little skinny one, and we're stopping when we reach the second one. So if we can get this, I think you can just about see there where those lines are. Okay, and I want you to do the same on that one. All right, so I'm going to carry on. If you want to, you can have a watch if you wish. I'm going to do the same as that one on here, and I'm going to do the same as that one on the short one. All right, so if you are we carrying on me?
Yeah, I think
Brilliant.
so.
Okay, so we've got 3/8 down that long side. We've got 1 inch. We've got 1 3/4. And we've got 2 and 1 2/3/8. So that's my long one. And then the little skinny one, we're going to do the same again. 3/8, 1 inch, 1 3/4, and 2 and 1 2/3/8. Okay, and then we're going to rotate that one, and we're going to come in at 3/4 of an inch. Okay, down to that second score line, and we're going to come in at 4 3/4 down to that second score line. Okay, so you should have 2 pieces that have those little extras and 2 pieces that have got the full length of scoring. Okay, so again, I think I'll just wait while everybody's got that bit sorted, and then we'll carry on because there's a little bit of cutting to do on this one next. Okay.
Oh, right. I don't think it'll take everybody long to catch up.
No, not at all.
I mean, as everyone said, Colleen says making the frame looks to be not as hard as I thought. Thanks, Jan, for showing us and explaining so easily for us. There you go. I mean, it's all in the explanation, isn't it? Mary Pat 1000 says, thank you for writing down the measurements. Jan snapped my screenshot, and
Yep.
that's why you did it. And then Julia Duffy says, good day everyone, it's a lovely evening here in Perth, late in tonight, but loving this project. Yeah, can't even begin to work out what time it might be over there, but I'm sure it's about, I don't know, 11 p.m, something like that, maybe even midnight, but yeah, enjoy. Thank you for joining us, Julie. We've got a couple of people that join us from Australia, usually on the first shows rather than the last show, because that is ridiculously timed. So there we go. So yeah, everybody is catching up with those, and these are the frames, the embossing folders and dies that we're going to be using. If you want to have a look at those, then just go and look on our shop the day page on our Crafters Companion page, and you will see those on there. But they are coming out at a really good deal. If you're a platinum member, they're coming out at £26.97, I think is the right amount, because you're going to get 25% off today. Right then, Jan, I think everyone's caught up.
Right.
I'm using Elaine as my guide, and she sat there waiting, so let's
I'm quite happy to go through things again if anybody's stuck. Please don't be afraid to message us if you need something repeating, because that's what these are all about. It's about doing it in real time so that you can follow along. There's no point in me streaking ahead and somebody be stuck at, you know, the scoring bit. So yeah, shout up if you need me to repeat it. So all I've done on that long piece is literally fold all of them as a mountain, and then I've actually used my bone folder because you want a really nice crisp fold on these. So each of those folds, give it a good press with whatever you use for your bone folder, and make sure that those creases are really nicely secured. Again, I'm going to do the same on the other long one. So all the folds, all the score lines, want a good fold, and then bring them in and burnish them. All right, so this is one of the things that I found when I first started. I had no idea what it meant by burnishing the cardstock, but you'd be amazed how much of a difference it makes, especially when you're making something like this that's got angles. You know, you've got those 90-degree angles on the frame. It does make a really big difference to the crispness of those folds. So just nice and simple. And those two are ready for our tape. So put those to one side. Now then, the two shorter pieces, okay, and I'm going to draw this on with my pencil so that you can see, because I'm conscious that I'm working on straight card. I'm going to take my little snips, and where we put those little vertical score lines that just came down to the second score mark here, we're going to cut down the score line, and then I'm going to go from the bottom of the score line to the corner of the next score line. So let me just draw it in, and then you can see exactly what I mean there.
And obviously our viewers can draw it in if they want, but you're just literally drawing it in.
I'm doing this so that you can see better, because as I say, the white here, I can see the score lines, but it's not so easy for you to see what I'm doing, yeah? So I've come down that score line that we put into the second horizontal one, and then I've come from the bottom of that score line to the outside edge of the next score line. And then I'm going to do the same at the other end. So we're going to come down that piece that I actually put in as a score line. And then we're going to put this one. I'm just looking where the lines are there, just to give you the idea. Okay, now then, they're just saying in my ear, my lovely duo, and I think the ones that were missing were these here. So we've got that set of 4 score lines, which were the vertical long score lines, and then when I turned it, I scored here at 3/4 of an inch, and I scored this side at 4 3/4. Okay, so just for those of you that were asking, we've come in a 3/4 of an inch from the left hand side and scored down to that second score line. And then we went over to 4 3/4 and scored down to that second score line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep, I'll leave that there for a second. And then I'm going to cut, I'll leave this one so that you can see the diagram, but I'm actually going to cut that. Now, if you hold this with the little score lines at the bottom there, you can just see them there. On this side, I'm going to cut to the left of, so I'm essentially cutting that score line away. And I'm going to stop where we reached that second horizontal score line. Yeah, so my actual score marking is on the bit that we're cutting away. And then I'm just going to turn it at an angle, and I'm going to go from here across to the bottom of that next score line. So you can see now that we've got that shape cut out of there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same at the other end, but this time I'm going to come to the right hand side of the score line. So I've got my score line here. I can only just see them under the lights. There we go. And I'm going to cut to the right-hand side. So my score line, again, is on the piece that we're cutting away. It just makes it neater when we finish this off. Now, because I'm right-handed, I find it difficult to go this way. I can go that way, okay. So all I'm going to do is turn it and come from the bottom and meet it here. So you're cutting away the same piece. So I've got this one at this side, this one at this side, and you can see now, if I pop it down on the one that I drew on, you can see where those pieces have come from. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with this one, okay? So again, left-hand side of the score line, down to that outside edge, and then right-hand side of the score line, down to the outside edge of the next one.
Christine Mahoney says, thank you so much for writing down those extra measurements.
That's quite all right. As I say, if there's anything that you need, don't be afraid to just shout out.
Yeah, and Rachel will pass them through to me.
So we've got our 2 pieces now that look like so. So again, we can go ahead now and just burnish all those score lines again, like we did with the long pieces. Make sure you've got that nice crisp edge in there on each of the folds. Okay. Little one in, like so, and then the same with that last piece. And then these are ready to start and add some tape to. So again, once I've done this, I'm just going to give you a quick 30 seconds, a minute or so, just to make sure everybody's in the right place. If you're not, give us a shout and we'll hang on before I go on to the next stage. So I've got my 2 long pieces at the ready, and then I've got my 2. So we've basically got sides, top and bottom there.
Perfect. Yep, you can see how it's coming together.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Now, the only other comment I've got at the moment, I think you're either all watching a GOG or you're crafting along with us, because we're not getting too many comments through. Panda Crafts, I'm very jealous. She says, I've just put myself and a friend in for a craft along at the Chesterfield store next Thursday.
Excellent.
Ooh,
yes.
What are you making? I'm interested to see. Make sure you post pictures when you've finished. So yeah, no more really comments at all. Christine obviously asking for those measurements, and then you've got them. So I think everybody should have caught up because it was only 2 little snips.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So next bit then, we're just going to get these prepared to stick. We're not actually going to stick them together straight away because I want to pop that pink piece inside on the background, but we want to get these ready. So I've taken my red line tape for the first part of this, and this is the middle one. This is the 6mm. So it's not the very, very narrow one. That's the little 3mm, and it's not the wide one. And this just fits nicely on the edges. So on the long ones, it doesn't matter which edge you put it on. So you just want one of those skinny bits that measured 3mm, and I'm going to bring this up to the score line, but not over it. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it along, running parallel with the score line, and pop myself a full length of red line tape. And I'm going to do the same on this one. So again, right up to that score line, that's where it's going to fold, but try not to stick it on the score line. Okay, and again, snip that one. And then all I'm going to do is spin it round, and I'm just going to take a little tiny wedge out of that 3mm bit. It's only gone up to that next score line, and then again at this side. So you just sort of miter in the corner, and all this does is keep it nice and tidy in case you've got any slight sort of elements of measuring not quite right. I'm going to do the same on this one. Okay, so just, it only needs to be a fraction. I've literally not taken much off there at all. You can just see the piece there on my finger, if you can just see it. Just a little fraction. And as I say, it just keeps it nice and tidy inside that external frame. So just up to that little score line there. And that's my long ones ready. Okay. Now for the 2 short ones, you want the longest side. All right. So we're going to put the tape. We cut into this side. You want that long side, and we're going to do the same again. So again, along that score line, run it parallel, but not over. Otherwise, you'll have sort of sticky edges on your frame because the score line is going to be one of the outside edges. Same with the second one. So again, I'm just going to line that up, run it along parallel with the score line, trim it off, and then again I'm going to do the same. All right, so I'm just going to spin it round, and I'm just going to take those little tiny miters off each corner, and the same on that one. So we've done pretty much the same thing on each one, apart from snipping to the top on those smaller lengths. Okay, so these are now ready to actually go onto our frame. All right, and you'll see with the long one, when we put these together, that the mitre here is where this one's going to slot into and make you that lovely, nice, neat corner. Okay.
That's good as well, because if you'd have mitered both, you can end up with that tiniest...
Even if it was just a hairline gap, yeah. But this way, we're going to put a little bit of glue on the corner when we're ready.
Yeah.
Tuck it inside, and you'll get that beautifully
Perfect.
angled corner. Okay, so just leave those to one side for a second now. And then if you bring that large piece back in, I'm just going to burnish the score lines in here as well. And I just want you to make sure when you do this one, that when you've folded it over, it's running nice and parallel with this edge. If you've scored it nice and straight, there shouldn't be any problem with it, but just make sure that those edges are nice and straight, and then again, burnish those score lines in place. It's teaching that cardstock where you want it to stay. And then again, the other side, so they're both a mounting fold. And again, just double check that that one folds over nicely and it's running straight. Give it a good burnish into place. Now this one's actually created that nice little folder, and these are made at just the right measurements to go inside here.
Oh, it just hooks them
When it
perfectly,
all sticks
doesn't
together, it's all the perfect size for it all to just fold in nicely.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. I think you're explaining that very, very well, and I'm watching Elaine, and Elaine's nodding as you're going through them all. So I take it she's following it too. So that's my gauge. If Elaine starts looking a bit puzzled, then we know we've gone right. If Elaine's nodding, then I'm sure that it's all
Yeah,
going.
like I said, don't be
uber well.
afraid to ask if you want something repeating or you want me to go through it again. This is what these shows are all about. So often we're going at an alarming rate because we want to cram so much in for you within the time that we've got. And sometimes you lose, sight. You can always play them back, but this way you can actually do it along with us. Okay?
Okay, absolutely perfect.
So-
Right. We're just gonna have a very quick little break. We're gonna show you all about Club Inspire. Now, just remember, whatever percentage it says on here, you can add an extra 5% on just for this weekend for your discount. So this is your taste of weekend. So remember, Platinum, we're giving you 25%. So you're going to get that extra little bonus. So see what Club Inspire is all about, and we'll come back and Jan will do the next bit when we come back.
Welcome to Club Inspire, the crafters companion community where you can feed your crafty obsession. Join our fantastic loyalty club today and receive 20% off your first order. We'll also give you 250 points to help get you started. Other benefits of joining Club Inspire include exclusive special offers and discounts for Club Inspire members only, exclusive sneak peek previews of brand new product launches, and of course the Club Inspire community group on Facebook, where you can access exclusive content such as downloads, offers and inspiration, and of course you can chat and share your makes with other members. You'll receive 1 point for every £1, dollar or euro you spend, and the more points you receive, the more benefits you'll unlock. So what are you waiting for? Sign up, join the club and start rewarding yourself today.
We get to know people from places and walks of life that we wouldn't come across in our everyday life if it wasn't for Crafters TV and doing what we do.
I got so many lovely comments from people when I started doing the presenting, and it was just really such a lovely feeling. And it's nice that people keep messaging in. We see the same people. We know you can build up that kind of relationship with those people. So it's just the fact that people like what we do and they're pleased. And I do love it when people send us photographs of the items that they've made.
We talk about customers, but really they go in as a customer, come out as a friend. The support that I get is amazing. The messages I get are amazing.
Me personally, it is personal interaction. I've never had the best of health. I've always been open about that with our viewers at Crafters TV. So many people are in the same situation as me health-wise. Other people have got a completely different health issues. They understand and they relate to what I'm going through, what others are going through. So whether we interact on a crafting basis or whether we interact on a health basis, a personal basis, we're all there to support one another. It is incredible.
The reaction of viewers when they come to meet us is worth all of the the early mornings when we have to get up for our early morning shows.
Some of the customers come on as craft ambassadors and things like that, craft along with us, and being able to actually chat with them on air. I love it. I really love that connection with them.
We've had lots of shows where we've done like craft alongs, especially where we've had viewers craft along with us. We had a particular viewer, Joy, who joined us once before, and she literally made me cry on air, and Joe, because the things she said about us, it really was quite humbling that there are people out there that watch us and invite us into their living rooms and really treat us like family.
And welcome back. Welcome back. We're just going to check in with our Elaine. But just before we do that, Faye Smith has said Jan is a great teacher. She is. It's so calm, isn't it? I know when I'm doing it, I'm like going, got to get this done, got to get this done. But no, there's none of that. She is just lovely and calm. So this is what you want. It is the perfect environment to learn in, isn't it? Absolutely. Right, so let's go and see where Elaine's at and see if she's got all her scoring and all her cutting and all her tape on. Are you following us, Elaine?
Oh, yes, I'm playing with the frame.
You're playing with the frame. Oh, she's getting impatient,
Yep.
Jan.
No,
She's
as I
jumping
say, I've
ahead.
done this before on a craft along, so I know some people will know how to pop it together, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we're glad you've got that done. And Jan was just explaining to me now we're going to start doing a little bit of constructing.
Yeah.
So
good.
hopefully you can follow that along too. And then, yeah, we'll get those frames made. What machine are you using to do your embossing with?
I have the Gemini, the original Gemini.
The original Gemini, yeah. Because just somebody was asking earlier about putting them through a MIDI and things like that. So I just wondered which one you do. Absolutely perfect. Right, okay. I'll let Jan take it over and show us the next bit then, please.
Right, so what I want to do then is get that frame partially in place. So we're actually going to stick the back of it to the back of the card, but I'm not going to fold it over to make the frame until we've dropped that piece. If you remember, I said it had that lovely piece of pink inside. I just want to drop that in before we close the frame together. So what I want you to do then is take your cover and make sure you've got it sort of in the right orientation there. And we're going to work on what would be technically the inside of the card. All right, so that back piece. So if you take one of your long pieces, and we're going to take the liner off the tape, okay, fold that edge in, and then I'm going to start on the one next to the fold, the score line here. And again, you want to work up to the score line, not over it. If you stick it onto the score line, it's not going to fold over properly when it's finished. So what I tend to do is start at one end here, and again, make sure that this bottom edge is level with the card here. And I'm just working straight up to that score line all the way along, and then seal that one in place. And I like to open it up, take my bone folder again, and just give that a nice press into place. So when you've got this folded flat, it should be nice and flush at the top edge, nice and flush at the bottom, and then just the score line visible, so that when we've got it in place, it will still fold. Okay? So that's the first long one. Then if you take your second long one, take your liner off, and we're going to flip it all the way round. Because I'm right-handed, I like to turn the whole piece round rather than trying to get in upside down. And we're going to do exactly the same, but along that outside edge this time. Okay, so again, line it up with your bottom corner, make sure that it's nice and parallel here at the bottom, and then it should run all the way up to the top, in place, just up to the edge of the cardstock that we've cut there. And again, that top piece should be nice and level. And then once you're happy, just give it a good press down. So if I flick it back round into the right orientation, we've got those two long pieces now that are going to create those edges, and you can see at the top there. Okay, so that's how it should look so far. So leave those open, and then we're going to come to the short ones. So again, you've got your tape on that longest side, remove your liner, And then these, again, I'm going to turn the project. I always turn the project into a position that's comfortable, right, rather than trying to get it into a funny angle. Fold that sticky edge in, and this is going to stick between what was the original score line and the outside of the card. So this one should just be the right length to run parallel with the top of the card, but fit between the score line on this one and the score line on this one. And then once you're happy with it, again, give it a quick stick down. Okay, so you can see now we've got that one in place. So when we come to stick these in properly, we've got the two long sides, and then the reason we cut into this one is because this distance now is narrower. We've got 3/4 of an inch here and 3/4 of an inch here, which is why we came in 3/4 of an inch, to allow this one to just fold nicely inside.
Perfect.
Okay, so we need to do exactly the same. So again, I'm going to rotate the whole thing so that I'm working my working edges here. And that last one, we're going to do exactly the same with. So just folding that one little sticky edge in, lining it up with what would be the corner of the actual card, trapping it nice and level between the two sets of score lines, burnish it down to get all the air bubbles out the tape and get a good stick. And then again now, when we pop these in, when we get to glue these down, you'll see that one comes up at the bottom, that one comes up at the top, and you've got your frame that fits perfectly inside. It really is that simple.
It really is.
And you can make this, if we were making a square card, I'd have just made these the relative length to do it square. These could have been longer, these could have been narrower. You can literally adopt this concept now to any size that you wish. Now, I know we've actually got frame dies on, shadow frame dies on our website, so if you find it easier to use one of those and make the rest of the project fit that, that's another way of doing it if you're not into doing this yourself. But I just like to show you the alternative way so that you can make things at different sizes. So I'm going to leave that as it is for now, because I want to drop that piece in the back just to make sure that if it needs to tuck under the edges, it can. So just pop this to one side.
Quick question before you go on any further, Jan.
Yep.
Could you have used a wet glue where you've just used red liner?
Yes.
Just have to leave it a bit longer to dry?
I would actually use our tacky glue in this instance.
Tacky glue, yeah.
I would normally say the construction glue for cardstock to cardstock, but the tacky glue will give you that little bit of extra, because it's a PVA, give you that little bit of extra movement to get things in place. And the only problem with that, well, it's not a problem, it's a time factor, because obviously with a wet glue, you've got to let it dry, because if these aren't dry, when we come to do the next part and they're moving around, it's going to make it very difficult to get everything in place, which is why I like my red line tape.
Yeah.
If you struggle with placement and you're worried about the red line tape grabbing, just dot a little tiny bit of your tacky glue over the top of the red line, and it'll give you that safety sort of valve where you can nudge it if you need to. Okay?
Yeah, perfect, lovely. So Paula says, love what you are doing, Jan. I'll keep this one in my binder. Thank you. I'd love to see these binders. It sounds like everybody's got these ones. Carol D on YouTube says, getting a late start on the show today. Boss Cat let me sleep another half hour today. Oh, well, lucky you. That's all I can say. Stephanie Theodos says, I'm watching but would love to do this craft along in the future. I know I have frame dies in my stash, but love Jan's way, as this frame can be made any size you need. Thanks, Jan. And that's exactly what you said, isn't it? You can now make
I've done it
whatever.
all sorts of different sizes. I think last time we did it, it was a square one. And if my mind serves me rightly, it had the, you know, the builder bouquet dies we had, where you could build the little flower bouquet. I think it had that in the centre as like a home decor piece.
Perfect for anything 3D.
So it's a good, maybe a couple of years ago now,
Leader Kirkpatrick says, lovely, it's like a shadow box inside a card. And that is basically exactly what it is.
It is, spot on.
Exactly. Okay, right. Elaine's nodding, so I think she's caught up as well.
Yep.
So shall we do the next bit then?
Right, so I'm going to come back to the remaining cardstock that we had now. We need to start and prepare some of those mats and layers and get those ready for sticking in place. So I'm going to take the piece of pink linen card, or whatever you chose for your very background layer. So this is going to be the largest mat that goes on first. And I've got one on the front and I've got the same size on the inside here. And these are both going to measure measure 7 by 5 inches. So I tend to cut my card down to the 7 so that I've got the right height. So along that long side, I've just lined it up at 7 inches at the top. I'm going to take a sliver off that side, and then I can turn it round and cut my 2 5-inch panels. So 7 by 5, and then again at 7 by 5. So that's going to give us 1 for that outside piece and just leave a nice border around the edge. And then we're going to have a second one to go as decoration on the inside there.
It makes the card really robust, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it's strengthening it constantly. So that's the first 2. Then I'm going to cut into the piece of mirror card that we had. Mine's a nice satin rose gold one. And this is going to be the next one. Now, I've normally spoke about leaving 1/4 of an inch increments, but just for the design factor, I've actually left a slightly wider one on the pink just to give it a little bit more focus, because I wanted to completely draw your eye into that sort of centre around that lovely embossed frame. So I'm actually going to go down slightly more than 1/4 of an inch here with this one. So we actually want, let's have a look, the rose gold are going to be 6.5 by 4.5. So again, I'm going to cut it, do I want to cut it down to 6.5 first? Let me think. Sometimes it's about thinking what else you want to do with your card. No, I'm going to cut the 4.5 and 4.5 is 9, which means, yeah, I'm going to cut the 4.5 off the length. So sometimes it's just worth thinking about what else you need your card for and how's best to cut into it. So 4.5 inches on the width by 6.5. Okay. So that's going to nestle nicely now in this one here. And then I'm going to do the same again. So I should have enough to do that, yeah, that way. So I'm going to spin it round. So again, just think about how you can get the maximum out of your card, especially specialist cardstock like this that's really nice. So 4.5 inches by 6.5. And when we've cut all the mats, I will add all the measurements to that sheet for you so that you can take a quick snapshot. So you should have 2 there that measure 6.5 by 4.5. Okay. I'm going to keep all these little bits to one side because we may need to do some extra cutting for the mats and layers, the little nesting layers at the end. Okay. So then my next layer was actually some of the paper. So on here I've got the reverse side, which was the green. And then on the inside, we're going to stop at this layer and use that lovely pattern as the detail inside. So out of your 12 by 12 sheet that you've chosen, have a think about which point you want to see inside. You know, this bit's actually going to be visible inside here. So which part of your pattern would you actually like to see? I felt that the top of this was a little bit busy for what I wanted. So I've actually used, you can just see where it's coming across here, I've actually used the bottom section here. So this one's going to measure 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm going to pop it in this way and measure my 6 1/4. And like I say, I'll write you all these down in a second. And then I'm going to cut this piece that I want to show on the inside at 4 1/4. So
that gives you control over picking which bit of the paper you want as well.
That's the bit that I'm now going to be able to see on that inside, which is a really nice pattern, but it's not too overpowering. Okay, and then it doesn't really matter where you take the next piece from. So what I'm going to do is carry on in the middle here at 4 1/4, because this time I'm going to use the reverse side, and that's going to be my second mat on top of here. Okay, so that's those ones. As I say, keep all the scrap for now until we've decided what we're going to do, and then I'm going to make one last cut, which is your Centura Pearl. So this is my lovely baby pink, and this is going to be the piece that goes inside the back here. Yeah. Tell a lie, there's 2 more cuts to do. We're going to do this one first. Now this one wants to be 6 by 4. Okay, so again, I'm going to take that 4-inch length off. Okay, and this is the same size as the embossing folders. So a straight 6 by 4 inches there for the pink, like so. and then I want one of those in the white. So you should have at least a sheet of the white cardstock left. And I'm going to do another 4 inches. And don't worry if you've lost me on all the measurements. Once I've got all these cut, I'll write them down for you. So 6 inches again that way. And this is going to be the piece that we add our colour to. This started out white here, that we're actually going to colour with the ink. We're going to pop it through the embossing folder, and then we're going to do a little bit of gilding wax. You can just see the gilding wax on there as well. So we've got all those pieces cut. Keep all the extra bits to one side because we're going to need to build those little nesting layers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop onto here where we started, just to make sure you've got that checklist there. So the first one was the linen, and those measured 7 by 5 inches times 2. Yep.
Yep.
Then we had the rose gold mirror card in my case. So if I put mirror,
Yeah.
these measured 6.5 by 4.5, and you want 2 of those. Yep. Then we had the green layers, so I've got a plain one and a patterned one. So if I put patterned, we had 6 1/4 by 4 1/4 times 2. All right, that's the main ones. And then you need, I'll put Centura. We need a 6 by 4, and we need 1 of those. And then you need a white one, which in my case is that multi-purpose card again. And that's the same size. So if I leave you that there, again, you can do your screenshot, you've got that as a reference point. And then we're going to start and do some work with that embossing folder next. So just let everybody catch up again. Make sure you've all got your mats and layers at the ready.
Perfect.
Okay.
Where's Elaine at? Shall we just, have you got time to talk to us, Elaine? Are you with us or are you just catching up?
No, I'm with you.
You're with us? Brilliant. Yeah, you write down all those measurements and you've got them all.
I'm going to take a screenshot later.
Okay, perfect, perfect, thank you. Right, okay then. So we have got, Donna here says, hi Jan and Corrine from San Antonio. A beautiful weather here today. I am running late watching CTV. Just get you like that. Was going to record, but I saw Jan demonstrating and I can't turn it off.
Oh, bless you.
Well, there you go. You don't need to record because it's there on YouTube for posterity. And Sherry Jackson on Facebook says, I love this technique to make different size shadow boxes. So yeah, absolutely. As Jan was explaining, this will allow you to make any size shadow box that you want. You can have any size frame, any size, you know, it can be square, rectangle, however you want. And you can have the frame as thick or as thin as you like. So yeah, so it's really, really usable. So, are you ready? Have you put all your bits together? I know, I'm just passing back over to Jan, so we're halfway. Do you feel like we're about halfway?
We're doing well, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as I wanted to make sure we'd got that frame together, because that was sort of the slightly more tricky bit. The rest of it is just matting and layering, to be honest. It's the decoration side of it. So I'm going to do some work with the embossing folder now. That was the focus of the show, and this is where I started. The very first piece I did for this particular project was to emboss this piece, work with it, get the sizing, and then sized up everything else to make the frame and all the mats and layers and everything. So I've taken the piece that we've just cut at 6 by 4 inches, which is the size of our embossing folders here. I love that these are slightly smaller. Normally, traditionally we're used to a 5 by 7, but this allows you to create that sort of work in the middle and then build up if you want the larger projects with those lovely mats and layers. Okay, so I've taken my Regal rectangle. I'm also going to bring in some ink. Now again, because I've got that pink theme going on, I've got my opaque ink, I've got pink tulip, and I've got my sponge applicator at the ready. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get some colour down onto this particular piece of card. So again, loading up your applicator, and then literally, doesn't matter how this goes on, because it is going to be in the background. So again, build up that colour. I've chosen the pigment inks. You know that those are my sort of go-to. It will work exactly the same if you have the water reactive inks. They're just a little bit stronger colour. So again, it's all about preference. There's no right or wrong there. So all I'm doing is literally building up the colour on here to get that nice pink tone. And you could have said, well, you could have used a pink piece of card, which we could. You know, you could have had 2 of these. But where's the fun in that? So I'm just going to grab I've got a piece of tissue down here somewhere, just so that I don't lift the ink back off with my paws. And then I'm going to do the other half, and then we're going to pop this through that embossing folder. So again, just build up those layers of colour. It's very, very delicate, this one. I didn't want it to be overpowering. Just wanted to keep it nice and pastel. Okay. So once you're happy with that, you can see how it's just taken the edge off that whiteness there. It was white to start with, and then when we flip it, if I put it against the white, you can see, as I say, it's very, very pale. But if I show it you against your white, you can see there's a big difference. Okay? So I just want to talk about the embossing folders now for the benefit of anybody that's just joined us for this particular hour, or 2 hours should I say, now that we're back to our usual schedule, because we brought out an embossing folder that has a set of dies with it. And we've said many, many times about if you emboss and then die cut, you're going to squash the embossing. So I just want to address that for anybody that wasn't watching earlier, because we did talk about it in this morning's show. So the way to do this, and this has come from our Leanne herself, she talked about this when she launched the product, is to make yourself a little template. Now I'm not going to do this in the show, I'm just going to talk you through what I did. And then I'm just going to give you a minute or two, because it literally takes seconds to make this. So if you want to make one of these, if you haven't done already, you can literally pop this through. So it was, again, a piece of 6x4, white multi-purpose card, or any scrap card for that matter. It doesn't have to be white, it can be any piece of scrap card. And the whole piece, without the aperture, I've passed through my folder and embossed it. All right, remembering that you only need to use that modified selection of plates. So clear plate, magnetic shim, and then your frosted one as your top plate. And emboss the whole piece, okay? And then when it comes out, what I want you to do then is take the largest of your nesting dies, and you'll see where that detail is on the embossing folder there. This has been made the perfect size to cut that frame out of the centre. Now, like I said, if you added this in now, and we're going to pop it through the machine again, it's going to flatten all this lovely embossing. But this is just going to be our template, so it doesn't matter. So I want you to line that up with the frame that's in the centre, whether you're using the rectangle or the oval or the square, it all works the same. Line it up, stick it down, and pass that through your machine again to cut out the aperture. Okay? Does that make sense?
It certainly does, yeah.
Right, so if you haven't got one of those already, it's in your interest to make this, and it's literally going to take 2 passes through your Gemini or your MIDI. Okay, so I'm just going to give a minute or so for you to make one of these, because we're going to need to use this one along with our piece that we've just coloured to get this aperture in the right place. Otherwise, I'm just guessing, you know, by eye, you think you've got it straight, and then when you put it in here, it's not going to line up with the aperture. So it's worth having that template.
It really is, because I did the first look with these folders just the weekend before we launched them.
Yeah.
And I cut my card, I laid it in my embossing folder, and then I put my die inside the frame and then closed it and hoped it didn't move and cut it.
Yeah.
It works,
yeah,
but it was really tricky and...
Bit of chance in there as well.
Yeah, bit of chance, whereas what you're showing absolutely works
As
every
I say,
single time.
this is how Leanne demonstrated, and I mean, at the end of the day, she's head of our product development team for a reason, and you know, they sort of go through how is the best way to use these. So having watched her with them, I thought, yeah, that just is so simple. And then you can keep this.
It can be on the scrappiest bit of card, can't
Absolutely.
it? Card,
it could even, you know, it could be a piece of old crummy coloured card. It doesn't matter what it is. And the reason I wrote template on it is because I didn't want to end up using it for something else. So yeah, Jan needs that on there just to tell her that that's the template.
Because it's like you say, it's been
Old head's not getting any better.
No, but like you say, we lose dies, we pick up the wrong templates, but also you flatten some of your embossing.
Say it how it is, it's a template, Jan, don't use it for anything else.
Yeah, when I get my packs ready to come here, I always write Nina on the back of my card, because under these lights, sometimes it's hard to see the colour. Once you pick it up, you can do. And I always think to myself, why do you write it on the back? Because if you write it on the back, you're not going to. But never mind. We get there, don't we? We have our own.
Sticky notes are my best friend.
Yeah, we have our own
little sticky notes everywhere.
Right, so hopefully everybody's done that now while we've been chatting. Just to say, Carol D said, she'd also like a show where we learn how to make a gusseted envelope. I don't always want to put dimensional cards in boxes. I reckon there's lots on YouTube.
If you search on our channel on Crafters, if you search for Crafters Companion Envelobox, all right, so Envelobox, E-N-V-E-L-O box. There's loads of tutorials. Either using the enveloper itself or using some of the scoreboards, and that actually puts that, you can have whatever depth you want in the edge of the box to slot those dimensional cards in. There's loads. Sarah's done loads herself with those.
There's so many on there. Diane Davis says, I've never made a frame before, but really surprised how easy it will be following the instructions. Can't wait for my scoreboard to arrive to get making. That's key, isn't it?
Yes, scoreboard to me is a piece of core tool. Yeah, scoreboard and a guillotine.
I mean, I don't mind. In a way, it doesn't matter whose scoreboard. Ours works perfectly.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, but you must have a scoreboard to do something like this.
You need to keep everything. The secret is to have everything nice and straight and at the right angle. Otherwise, it can go terribly wrong.
Yeah. Jeannie says, thank you, Jan. It's so awesome learning from you. I actually can do the project after you teach us what to do. You make it really enjoyable. Thanks for your wonderful instruction. There you go. Right, I think we should crack on then.
So I'm now going to use my template then, because I want to cut the aperture in here and then emboss it so that I've got that lovely embossing that we're then going to bring in our gilding wax to highlight. So I could guess, like I said, where this wants to go, but this just makes it so easy. It's exactly the same size. So I'm literally going to line up my card to make sure that everything's nice and straight. And then you'll be able to feel the die slot back in the middle like a little jigsaw piece. And then I want you to take your pencil and just draw around the inside of the die. Okay, now I'm not too worried that there's a pencil mark on here because this bit's going to cut away now. All right. Now when Leanne did hers, she actually drew round the inside of the template, and you can see there that there's probably a good 1/8 of an inch difference in where my pencil line is and the edge of the template. Now the reason I've done this is, if you draw around the edge of the template, you've got to sort of guess where this cutting line is in the middle of your metal work. And I was struggling, even if it was only like a millimetre, to get it in place. This way now, I can see my pencil line on the inside of my die, and I know that it's perfectly in the right place. So this is the largest one of the nesting dies. I'm going to take a couple of little bits of tape and make sure that this is secured in the right place so I can see all the way through there. And then I'm going to tape it onto the inside here, because this is the bit that we're going to cut away. So it's not going to damage any of my cardstock or any of the ink work on the other side. And the first thing that I'm going to do is cut this with the relative plates. So I need my full plate sandwich for this one. So we're going to go onto my clear plate. I'm going to pop my shims in there as well, and then the top plate on, and just pass this back through my Gemini. So whether you're using your big one, your Gemini Junior, it will go through the MIDI for just die cutting. So use the appropriate sandwich for that, and we're going to cut that aperture straight out of the middle. And we've got this right, exactly in the right place. I'm going to leave that as it is for now. But when I now pop this into here, this is now lined up perfectly with the aperture in the embossing folder there. All right?
Absolutely perfect.
But just remember on this case that I don't need that extra clear plate. So because I've got a 3D folder, I've got one clear cutting plate, my magnetic shim, and then I'm going to use the plastic folder as the top layer. Okay? Thicker folder, thinner sandwich on your plates. If you're using your MIDI, your folder will go straight through the MIDI without actually putting anything with it at all. If it's a 3D embossing folder, it just literally turns straight through the MIDI. And we've now got that beautiful embossed piece. Yep, absolutely gorgeous, with the aperture in exactly the right place without having to guess and make sure, you know, holding your breath to make sure it's in the right place. Absolutely perfect. So what we're going to do now then is I'm just going to bring my ink back and add a little bit of definition just around the edges there. I just want to darken up the edges slightly. Doesn't have to be a lot, and it's always optional, this, you know me and my ink. Okay, and then if you were watching earlier, we used the ink to highlight the embossed area, but this time I'm going to bring in some of our gilding wax, and we're just going to highlight this part with the gilding wax. So best tip I can give you with this is less is more. Now I chose the King Gold. I love that rich gold colour on here, but you could use any of your gilding waxes if you don't have this one. And you need the tiniest little bit. But isn't pink and gold good? I love it. Pink and gold and teal and gold, as you may have noticed. So again, whatever you've got on your finger, try and get rid of it. Okay, so you've got the slightest bit left on here. Less is more. You can always add to it and build it up, but if you get a big finger splodge in here, it's not going to go anywhere. So again. Find with the gold by layering it up, or you can just have that hint.
Yeah, there we go, we're back. We're back. You're back. That is absolutely gorgeous, Jan. It's such a lovely combination. Just enhances that embossing so much, doesn't it?
There we go. Okay, right. So you can just see there how it just brings it out and just sort of draws the eye into where you want it to be. So I'm just going to grab a baby wipe and just get rid of that excess off there. So that comes straight off the fingers there. I always wonder what's in the baby wipes, that it gets rid of this so easily. Yeah. It worries me slightly.
You also have to get it off your glass mat quite quick, because this, at the end of the day, is furniture grade gilding wax.
If you're struggling and you have the stick away.
All right, does that work too?
It emulsifies the wax.
Oh, perfect.
So just a little spray of that on it and just leave it for about 30 seconds and it emulsifies the wax. It'll literally just wipe away. So if it has, you know, if you've left it and it has got a bit stubborn, it, like Corrine says, it does sort of set quite quickly on the mats. That's the best way I've found to actually to get rid of it, instead of scratching it off your board with a knife.
I just want a quick question, and I'm not even going to say. Sorry, I really don't know how to say your name. Sorry. Says, how will I know where to line up my card in my embossing folder, please?
If you've cut it 6x4, it fits perfectly. This is exactly. So I've got it level with the bottom of the folder, level with the sides, and it fits exactly in the folder. That's why I've cut it the 6x4 inches.
Yeah,
okay,
so 6x4 fits perfectly.
Yeah, it literally is the same size as the folder. So as long as you've got all your edges in the right place, you should have no problems.
I remember with these, the embossed detail goes so, on the outside edges, the long edges, goes so far to the edges you can't cut any shorter, can you?
Not really, no. Quite often, with the 5x7s, I tend to cut it a wee bit smaller.
So do I, yeah.
But like you said, you know, when you look how close this goes to the edge of the design, you need that full 6x4 piece.
You do.
And then just while we've got the embossing folder out, I'm going to take that piece of Centura pearl as well, and I'm going to do the embossing with that one. All right, so always make sure that this is the right way. You want that raised part here. It's actually got the Gemini logo on the back of this particular range. Pop that one in, make sure it's lined up nice and straight, and then I'm going to pop that one through while we've still got all the bits and pieces handy.
It makes sense. You've got the embossing folder on your desk before you put it away and everything.
So we
don't
just
you?
get that one done as well, and then we're going to start and stick some of these layers together.
Oh, Sherry says, whenever I make standalone shadow boxes versus putting them inside of a card, so you just make that shadow box.
Yep.
She uses the beautiful 3D concertina border dies to make decorative wraps around the corners.
Yes.
That looked pretty too, won't
Absolutely,
it?
yeah. If you've got any corner dies as well, you can make like little corner, like you can make, if you do them with maybe silver gilding wax, looks like those lovely little metal corners that you can buy as well, yeah,
That
or
look
even
nice.
cutting them out of mirror card. Okay, so that one, if I remember rightly, yeah, I left the piece in here. I'm not too worried about the aperture in this one because we're going to build onto it. So we should have now then our piece that we've inked, embossed, cut the aperture, done the gilding wax, done the business on that one, and then your plain pink one that we've literally just run through that folder. It's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so we've got some sticking to do now. We're going to start and assemble some of those mats and layers. So I just want you to get all those pieces that we've cut and portion them out. So you've got 2 pink ones, you've got 2 of your mirror layer, you've got a plain side from your pattern paper and a pattern side from your pattern paper. Now, if you wish, I did actually pop on the list the green topaz ink. So if you wish to just ink around the edge of these, it doesn't take long, and you know me, I like the inking on things. I think it just finishes them off.
Stop you seeing the white cut lines as well.
Yeah,
doesn't
if
it?
you're going onto white cardstock, I don't worry as much about it. But because we're going to put a paper that's got a white edge against a coloured card, it's just something, I do it without even thinking now. And I very rarely do I not have a shade in our ink pads that just fit whatever colour I'm working with. So again, you know, it takes seconds to just go around the edge of those. All right, and then I'm going to bring in my tape pen, and these are all flat layers. So there's no foam pads or anything involved in here. Now this is the point if you are being frugal, particularly with something like this. If you want to take the centre out of here with a knife, then now's the time to do it. Okay, because you might want to save some of that precious cardstock. I'm literally just going to go for it now because I can see the time ticking away. So on the back of here, line and flick with my tape pen all the way round, and that's going to mat onto my pink layer. So again, a nice even border around the outside of that one.
That's a nice size border, that one.
And then I've kept it narrower, so I've got a slightly larger border and then just a narrower one, just for effect. So this is going to have the plain side facing up, just for that matte layer. So that one's going to layer inside here, like so. And then we can pop our layer that we pop the gilding wax on. So this is going to be the front of our card, and that one again is just cut the right size to leave that border around it. So again, because it's just plain cardstock onto paper, and we've got that lovely embossed design, if you were watching earlier, I said, you know, the all-purpose glue is a great one for this because it just sinks into the back of the embossing. You can use your tape pens by all means, but I just think this gives it a really nice sort of good bond. The glue just sort of sits in those little wells where the embossing is, and you get a really good stick there. So that one's going to pop on there like so.
Jan, Rhonda says, do you buff your gilding wax?
Yes.
Yep.
Not got to that bit yet.
All right, okay, you're jumping
Step ahead
Rhonda.
of me. Step ahead. Now then, I've just got a little bit of that come out, but this is the beauty of the all-purpose because it will just literally rub away off the edge of your card there. So that's the front panel done. I'll come back to the gilding wax in a second, and then I'm going to do the same with these three. So again, if you want to take the middle out of any of your specialty card, I usually just whiz round it with my craft knife. I'm not too worried whether it's straight. I can always straighten it up in a guillotine afterwards. Okay, but we've got exactly the same sequence. We're just going to have 3 layers on this one. Now, what I normally say with the projects is as long as I can get the construction side of it finished. The actual sort of pretty bit, the decoration side, I can talk you through what I've done, and if we don't have time to cut all those extra little bits, you can see the photos and see what I've done with it. So my aim today was to get this constructed. If we have time to do any of the extra die cutting, I will.
I think we're going to get there.
Okay, so that's my front panel. That's my inside front panel, and then this one's going to go in the back. All right, so again, I'll just give people a second to get all those stuck together. I am just going to say, like you said, with the gilding wax, just with a nice smooth cloth, if you just give it a nice little buff, it just brings up that extra sheen.
It does. As we said, they are traditional furniture waxes.
Yep.
So they're meant for, you know, going on your furniture, so you'd buff those up. So we just take them into the craft industry, and obviously they will shine up with a little bit of a buff. But doesn't that look completely different, seeing the 3 stages side by side? But looks really, really effective. I mean, those 2 outside pieces, they could almost be different to a point. They could be different frames just because they've been prepared in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're going to pop those into our masterpiece here now. Our masterpiece. Our master frame. I didn't mean as in a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece, and everybody thinks it is. Everyone's really impressed. Okay, I'll let you do that then.
Right, so this piece then is going to go right in the centre of the back, and it should fit inside your frame. All right, it should just, the gap inside here will be the right size, but the reason I wanted to pop it in first was just in case there's any slight overlap and then you're trying to squidge it into a bit that's not quite right. So again, I'm going to go with a bit of both in here. I'm going to do a little bit of the tape at the top and bottom where it's flat, and in the middle here. And then I'm going to put a bit of my wet glue to seep into that embossed area. So again, don't be afraid to mix and match your glues if you want to. I just think that Collal all-purpose glue just fits nicely into the back of that embossed area. And then the bit that's left here, so you can see where we've got our edges stuck down, I'm literally going to pop this right in the centre and just eyeball all the way round that we've got a similar gap.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then get that bit in place. So just hold it in place because it's been through the machine. Sometimes you get a little tiny kink in there.
There was a question we often get asked on other craft-alongs is when people find that their card sometimes creases. I don't know about you, but my suggestion would always be put your folded side into your die cutting machine first where you can, because if you go open end of your embossing folder first, the card, because it stretches, that's what it then ends up butting against the hinge.
Yes.
And that's when you get your buckle. So if you always, I mean, Jan had to do it sideways because it was with the junior plates, but that's absolutely fine because it's got somewhere to go. But if you go hinge side first, into your, no, open side first, so it's hinge side last, then your cardstock will run out of space to stretch, and that's when you get your creases.
Yeah,
so
and
always,
any die cutting or embossing does stretch it slightly. It's not noticeable,
no,
but it does stretch it a little bit. And then the other thing, if you're having problems with it sticking, I'd always go to my red line tape. So if I've done any work on, say, watercolour card where it does tend to buckle a little bit, I always use the red line tape to stick it down because that ain't going anywhere. It's like, it's good stuff. So we've got that one in, and now we can bring these sides into place. So I'm going to actually go back. There was a question at the beginning about whether to use the tape or the wet glue. This is the point where I actually use my wet glue, and I'm going to use the tacky glue. And I'm going to take the whole nozzle off here rather than just take the pin out because I want a decent amount of glue. So I'm going to start with the 2 straight edges and all the way down that last skinny bit, which was our 3/8 of an inch, we're literally going to pop a decent amount of that tacky glue. Okay?
Yeah.
And then what I want you to do is fold it flat with 2 of the strips showing. So I've got the bit with the glue on and the next one.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and then holding that fold, you're going to fold it at the piece where we stuck it and fold it flat against your card. So you should have the other 2 pieces showing here.
Absolutely doesn't make any sense.
It
if
will
you
in a
think of it
minute.
logically, but I know where you're going
Yeah,
from.
it will in a minute, all right? And I want you to just, it takes a second for that tacky glue to grab, so just be patient with it and give it a good press. And then you can fold it flat the other way. So this score line here, I'm going to push this way, and it should fold flat that way as well. And then again, I always use my bone folder. You just want to make sure that that glue is firmly in place. And then when you push it back...
Yeah, you've actually just blown our Liam's mind in the there. Absolutely, perfectly square. I've seen it done before like that, but yes, it's the perfect way to make it square.
So again, we're going to do the same now on all four sides. So again, I'm going to bring that glue on this one. Do you know, our Liam's a fantastic crafter, and I'm not just saying that because he's in his ear. Some of the things he's made's blown me away. But he said to me before the show, he says, you know, he says, I'm going to make this for my mum, he says, when I've finished. And I thought, oh, what a lovely compliment that was. And he still sat there in my, oh, wow. So again, the bit with the glue on there, you can just see the glue on that one, and the next one, fold flat. And then you're going to crease it at the one that's stuck to the card. So this is the outside edge now, and you're going to fold it flat against your card. And again, it's just giving that glue time. The tacky glue, the word tacky there is for a reason. You know, it does take a second for it to tack. So just don't be tempted to fold it back the other way until that glue's grabbed underneath. So just give it a nice firm press into place, and then lift it as if you were going to lift it open, but push it right over the other way, and if you've got it in the right place, it should fall flat. Now I've got a slight little bit here where my folder's not quite straight, but I'm not too worried about that. Once it's all finished, your eye's going to be drawn to the centre of here. So you've now got your two long sides in place, and you can see there it's formed those columns. Okay?
Yep.
So what we need to do now then is the same at the ends, and these are going to fold in and create that mitered corner on the corners there. So again, you want glue on that skinny bit, that 3/8 of an inch bit. And you also want a little tiny bit just in the corners here of these long bits. All right, so just in the corners where these mitered bits are going to sit over the top. If you put too much in, it's just going to squidge out of the sides, and with working with white card, there's a chance that it's going to mark the card. Now, we can't do the same technique here unless we fold these flat. So there's two ways of doing this. You can fold them flat and then do the fold and fold. I actually prefer to keep these in place now, and then I'm just going to nestle that one underneath, and you'll feel when it's in the right place, because these two form those lovely mitered corners. And then you will need to hold it for just a second again while that glue grabs in place. Now you can do this with red line tape. If you've made these before and you're confident with it, you can do it with your red line tape, but obviously once it's grabbed, which is why I like to use that tacky glue. It doesn't take long. You can see now that that's in place, and then we've got that return creating the top of our frame there. And then I'm just going to spin it round, and we're going to do exactly the same at this bottom edge.
There you go, look at that, absolutely square on.
So again, I'm just going to tuck that one in. I need a little bit on here, and again, we're going to fold that one. Tuck that little skinny bit underneath, that's the bit that's going to join the base of the card. Make sure your corners are nice and neat, and then just hold it in place and give that glue. It's just about being a little, I'm not very good at patience, I must admit, but it is worth just hanging on until that glue's grabbed, because if you let it go and it all springs open, then...
You certainly don't give the impression of somebody who's not very patient.
I'm not very patient at all, honestly.
Aren't you?
Not with myself. When I'm doing things, it's like, I need it done. I don't like things that have to wait to dry overnight, and yeah, I need it finished, like a dog with a bone. And then you've got that one should now close right over the top, and you've got all that nice and
absolutely
finished.
Perfect. That looks lovely. Really
so again,
impressed.
Just give everybody a second or two to get that in place. All right, let that glue cure.
When you said you were making the frame without any dies, or you know, you're just going to do it from pieces of paper. I was like, well, that's why we've invented dies to do it, because it just makes it easier. But it really has been as easy as you've seen Jan to do, and it can be as neat. And as Jan said earlier, cut your card square, score your lines square, use your bone folder to get those crisp lines, and you will get those results as well. Yeah. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah. Quick question then, just while you're waiting for anybody.
Yeah.
Rhonda says, going back to the gilding wax,
Yeah.
do you then let the gilding wax dry a bit before you buff?
To be honest, it's pretty much dry as soon as you use it. It's not a wet product because it's wax-based, it's solvent-based. It's not actually that wet. I normally give it sort of 30 seconds or so before I buff it, just to make sure there isn't any, because if you've got any sort of excess on there, then yes, you could actually smudge it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's not something that I would call wet.
No.
It's just a case of letting everything settle and then giving it a buff just to finish it off.
Perfect. Yeah. Michelle Knit says, such a great anytime gift. Yeah, absolutely perfect. You could have chocolate in there, you could have little gifts, you could fill it with flowers, it's entirely up to you. And Shadaya says, I am here, mesmerised, listening, looking and learning. Well, I think Jan's achieved the objectives of the day then, really, hasn't she?
Right, so all I'm going to do now, dead simple now, is we're going to use the tape pen to pop this one on the inside with that pattern paper. So we'll go ahead and do that one. So again, I'm just again, if you want to use your wet glue, you can use the all-purpose glue. Just because we're on air, I tend to stick with the tape pen. So again, that one's sized to just leave a nice white border. So centre that one on that inside front part of your card and give that one a stick down. Okay. And then the one with the embossing folder is going to go right on the very front. Now, before I do that one, just nearly remembered there, you want your length of ribbon, because I've actually popped this underneath that front panel just to secure it. You can see it round the edge, and then I've popped a panel on the back just to secure it at the back. This one's optional. If you don't mind seeing the ribbon going across the back, then that's fine. But if you want to just cover it and have somewhere to write, you can pop an extra piece on. I'm not actually going to do that bit on the demo today. But all I did with that one was take my ruler, and we've got 7.5 inches here. So half of that is 3 3/4. And I'm just going to make myself a little tiny mark inside on the front and the back, and then we're going to pop a piece of tape around there just to secure the ribbon. So again, just the little bits there, and then if you want to, you can just wrap the ribbon around. I'm just going to pop a little bit of my double-sided tape, the same one that I used earlier. I'm just going to pop a little bit in the middle here, just so that I've got something to work against. And a little bit, you could use your tape runner for this. You know how much I get through tons of red line tape. And again, in the middle of there. And then if you take your liner off, find the centre of your piece of ribbon. Oh, that bit's been stuck on something. Get rid of that bit. So find the middle there, and then the middle's going to go at the back, like so. And then I'm just going to centre that over those marks that I've made and just stick it in the middle. And then again, same on the back. Remove your liner, and then again, bring that round where those little pencil marks are and just centre it on the back. Okay, and make sure you've got your orientation right, and then we can go for this one on the front. Okay?
Yeah, it'd be such a shame if you did all that hard work and then put it on the back.
Oh, I know.
Look, the back of the card.
It'll not be the first time, and it probably won't be the last, honestly. I've often done that. I thought, oh heck, and then started trying to peel it off and made a mess. And so that one, make sure your ribbon's lying flat, and then that one's going to go on the front. Okay, like so. And you can see now that we've got that means there to tie it closed when we're finished.
Perfect.
Okay, So what I'm going to focus on now, just before we finish the show, is actually just building up the rest of that die set with the little mats and layers. I've got some in the middle here, and I've got some in the middle here. Like I said, I'm not too worried about all the decoration because that's more of a personal thing, depending on who it's for, you know, what dies you've got in your stash. Same with the sentiments here. I'm not going to worry too much about that. But you also get in your die set the rest of those little nesting dies. So I've used all 3 of them. So the largest one is the one that we used for the aperture. So I'm going to leave that one out, because what I want to do is leave a little bit of that green border showing when we get this next one in place. Okay, so what I did then, I think I did them both. Yeah, so we want some scraps left over of your rose gold.
Like you said, keep all your scraps because they're just so useful, aren't they?
They are, yeah. So the largest of the 3, we want to cut 2 rose gold ones. So I'm just going to cut this piece that I've got left. Like so, that's for that one. And then I want to cut, is that wide enough? Yep, I want to cut the next size down. I want 1 pink and I want 1 out of the green. Okay, so you can see there, we're going to cut those 2. That's for that one. And then the middle piece is white. So the smallest one, we're going to cut 2 white ones. So if I put those there, you can see where I'm at with those. So 2 in your mirror card, 2, 1 of the pink linen and 1 of your chosen paper. This matches what's on the front. You can see on the front, because I had the green at the back, I've gone gold, pink, white. And this one, because I had the pink at the back, I've gone rose gold, green and white. Yeah. So all I'm going to do now, and I'm going to use my little mini to pass these through when I find out what I've done with it.
How can you have lost a die cutting machine?
How can I have lost a die? There it is. Honestly, is it under my mat? Nice one, Nicholas. Is it under your mat, Jan? If you were watching earlier, you'll know exactly what she means. So yeah, again, I'm just literally going to pass all these through here. And the fact that you've got the dies, I love that it bevels the edge. You know, you think, well, you could have cut these with the guillotine. You could. But I just think when you've die cut them, you get that lovely beveled edge on them there.
That's why I love die cutting.
Yeah, you just get that nice little shaping round the edge, and I just think it makes such a difference than just cutting it flat. So we needed 2 of those. Whoops. So again, they just fit nicely through that little mini. If you want to carry on with the bigger machine, you can probably cut more at once. You know, it depends, you know, how you think. This one I actually cut together at home, but that piece, I've been very frugal with my piece of card there, so I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, if you didn't line it up quite right, you could.
Yeah, I could be tempting fate there, so.
Yeah, it takes seconds, doesn't it, with the mini?
It literally, yeah, and I've always got the mini out on my desk at the ready.
Mine sticks on top of my original Gemini.
Yeah.
That's where mine lives.
Little
Didn't have
piggyback.
another place to go.
Well, my large Gemini's behind me. So I've got my desk here and my Gemini's on a set of drawers behind me. So I have to sort of spin round to get to the big Gemini, but this one literally sits at the side of me. It never goes very far. So that's that one, and then we want 2 of the little white ones.
I love get at least one of those out of that piece you cut out from the aperture of your paper as well.
Yes, you could. Yep. So again, 1. Make sure I get the scrap on the scrap pile and the die on the die pile, Jan. Don't want to be losing any more dies.
It's hands and eyes coordinating there.
Oh, I sometimes question myself. I think I had a lot of brain cells. I'd be dangerous.
Oh, we all think
Here we go. So
not about you, about ourselves, I meant.
Rubbish in the bin, honestly. My husband laughs at me like, you've just done that, and I'm looking for whatever it was I should have done, you know. It's So again, we've got bronze, or in my case, the rose gold, the pink, and the white is going to go on the front. And then I've got the rose gold, the green, and the white is going to go inside. And again, you know me, the ink's coming out again.
Oh, yes.
So I have to do it. It's going to go round, but it's literally, it takes seconds on that one. And then if I remember rightly, yeah, I did the pink around the white layer. So this one again. Just to give it that little bit of definition there. You could have done that one in the green, I think, to offset it.
Oh, Liam, he's such a comedian. He reckons this will win demo of the show. If it doesn't, there's some serious questions, isn't there?
Edging your bets there. So again, I'm going to go with all the layers flat. Yep. So that one's going to go onto here. And again, you know, you've got the satisfaction of knowing that all that measuring's been done. Nicola's asking in my ear about my tweezers. You know, they're an extension of my fingers. And yeah, rather than trying to get this in here and your fingers be in the way.
You can't see, can
when
you?
it's smaller items, I do use my tweezers a lot. It has been commented on before that I do rely on them, and I do. They're like an extension of my fingers.
I
It's not
use
so
the
bad
squeezy
with bigger
tweezers.
layers,
Yeah.
because you've got more room. But like when I get to this little piece now, if I use my fingers and I'm covering up half of what I'm working with, so I just find that allows me to position things and then commit to it. So for me personally, I wouldn't be without them. So I use the open free ones for this kind of thing, or sometimes I'll use the angled ones, and then my inverted ones I tend to use to hold like things like when I'm embossing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got those at the ready. So the pink one is going on the front, and then I'm just going to bring in a couple.
Loads of lovely comments coming through, but I don't want to interrupt you while you're doing it. We'll do those in a minute, and we'll also catch up with Elaine.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to take it much further than this, to be honest, because then people can add their own slant to it. So, as I said, here we go.
Was that your tweezers gone?
Yeah, not bother with those. I think they've gone under the desk. Not to worry.
They're not under the mat, Nicola, no.
And then the same here, I've just used a couple of foam pads, just because we can. We've got that lovely depth in here. If you like making your foam flowers, these would build up nicely inside here. You could do like a, you know, a corner of foam flowers in there as well. So that one's going to go inside there. And then you can see, if I bring in the one that I'd finished, I used my little With Love, which is what we brought out for the mini. And I've cut it once in the green and once in the rose gold, just to offset it slightly to put on the front. So that was that one. And then this is a really old set that I'd got that I've had in my stash forever. It was when I very first joined Crafters Companion. We had a set of stamps and dies that matched, that covered practically every occasion you could think of, and they were split into female words, male words, occasions, celebrate, all different types of things, and that's where that one's come from. And then on here, this is one of my favourites as well. This is the Dainty Daisy from the flower dies. I've just cut 3 of those out of some of the scraps left that were in the pink. And then my little butterfly again is one that I have on my side at home. It's just a tiny little butterfly die that I've had for years. And just popped a couple there.
I don't think I've got a die that small, but I think I've got a punch.
Yes, if you've got punches, they will work the same, yeah. But I wasn't too worried about that side of it, because I say, A, you might not be making it for Mother's Day. You could add any sentiment in here. You might not even want to pop a sentiment inside. You might want to put your main sentiment on the front. If you saw the card that I did earlier, I just put a little butterfly in here as a decoration. You might want to pop another white panel in here to put a message on rather than going on the back. And then on the one that I did here, if you don't like the idea of the ribbon on the back, I've just cut another 7 by 5 inch panel of the white card, which you should have enough left out of your 3 that we started with, inked the edge of it and stuck that over the top. A, you've got that rigidity, and B, it just covers the workings.
It also is an extra, stops the ribbon lifting as well.
Yeah, just sort of secures this and sort of makes it a little bit more finished, I think. And that's, you can either pop a stamped sentiment in here, or if you wanted to write a nice message to whoever you were sending it to. Sometimes it might just be, I know a lot of you've got a stamp that says handmade by,
yeah, but that's
handcrafted by.
But a project like this might be quite hard to write your message on. That's a perfect space,
Yeah,
isn't it?
because you can write it and then add it to the back of it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as I say, the actual last little finishing bits, if you want to have a look at it here and take a screenshot of it closed.
Yeah, because you've got a few gems on there, have you,
I've
as well?
just popped on those 4 points, just some little, I just had some that were very similar colour to my rose gold mirror card there. And then if I open it up, I've done the same with some little pink gems inside. And if you want to screenshot, you can see how I've laid the embellishments out. But as I say, I think it's a very personal thing with the embellishments, depending on who you are, who the recipient is, what the occasion is, you know, just have a look what you've got in your stash. And if you don't have the exact same ones as mine, I'm sure you've got something in there that's going to fit the bill.
I'm sure you are.
And then once you're happy, we've just got that nice little tie closure there with the ribbon, which is why I left the ribbon so long. You can always trim it afterwards. But I'm just going to tie that now in its little bow, and that just closes it up nicely. And again, I would be making, if you wanted to pop this in a box, either a gift box, oh, I'm doing a really bad job of the bow there. Do you know, it's always the same. You could either, as I say, pop it, you could make a nice little gift box with a similar, you know, front on it to go in, or put one of the envelope boxes. The ribbon is decided it doesn't want to tie in a... You get the idea. I will do it, but obviously it is not it's not cooperating at all. It's no, I don't want to go in a bow. Don't tie me in a bow. It wants to look at the inside. So I'm just going to lift it up. I'm going to open it up again and free it. That's the front. And that's the inside.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect, perfect. Elaine, where are you up to with yours? How are you doing? Can you share what you've made?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Look at that.
I love that. So you've used slightly different... Did you have another layer on the front? Trying to think. No, those colours look absolutely gorgeous, don't they? I love the shine.
It's
gold.
like a coppery colour, that one, isn't it? The mirror card. That's lovely. Really.
Yeah, I
pretty.
just have to... I have to iron my ribbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
And
brilliant. And you
Look at that, that's lovely. Well done. Yep, that looks smashing. Oh, the only bit that I forgot to mention, I've just remembered a bit when you opened yours there. These bits here were literally just scraps of what were left from my mirror card. There were just tiny little bits that were left, and all I've done is pop them round the frame. But again, optional. You know, it doesn't. You don't have to do that bit.
You just cut thin strips?
Just little thin strips, yeah. They're about 1/8 of an inch, and just pop them round the frame. That was the last little bit that I did.
It does look nice doing that, doesn't it?
It just finished it off. It just sent a little bit plain in my, but again, it's not, you know, it doesn't have to be. It's just if you've got the cardstock left.
Did you enjoy that, Elaine? Was that fun to do?
Yes, it was very fun.
Good.
I love Jan's
teaching. And you found it fine to do all the mitered corners worked okay as well, and everything like that? Oh, brilliant.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us. We sort of left you to it a bit, but I just think everybody needed to hear from Jan what she was doing. So thank you for joining us. And it's lovely.
You're
when
welcome.
You're completely finished, send us a picture when it's completely finished, and we'd love to see. We'd love to see what sentiment and things you put on it. That would be really nice to see. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. All right, then, thank you. Right, now, lots of people have been here commenting. I wanted to just let Jan finish what she was doing. So, we have got, Shadiah says, I am here, mesmerised, listening, looking and learning. I'm not sure if I remembered that. Crafty Angie says, Jan, I have not tried to make this because it looked difficult. You demonstrated it so well that I'm going to have to try it.
Excellent.
There you go.
That's what we want. I want to break it down so that you can manage it. There's no point in me standing here and doing something all fancy and nobody wanting to have a go. That's not what it's about, is it? It's about breaking it down into steps that you guys can follow.
Perfect, perfect. Paula says, I love this. Now, Terry Anderson, this made me smile. I saw this one when it came through. I've only been watching while cleaning. I thought this was a simple box. Oh my, I will be recreating this for sure. I will use my shadow box dies instead.
Yep,
this is
absolutely,
fabulous.
they will work.
Yeah, but you've shown how the alternative if people want to. Michelle Knit said, a must-make project, can't wait to try. Linda Harris said, first time following, she put masterclass, she means craft along. Thank you so much, that was amazing. I can't believe my card looks brilliant. Well, I'm glad you've seen it. Tag us, put them on Facebook or Instagram. Tag Jan and myself, would love to see them. Mary Smith said, thank you, Jan, for a most interesting and informative class this afternoon, helping me with my mojo. And do you know what? We all lose our mojo from time to time. I've got a craft along, and I've seen Jan 2 weeks, and I keep saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It'll come to me, but sometimes we just need that trigger, don't we?
It is. You just see something, and it can be absolutely anywhere. Sometimes you're out walking, sometimes you're in the supermarket, and something just triggers that imagination. You think, oh, I could do that with my cardstock. I'm terrible at going to places and seeing home decor items and thinking, I'm not spending all that money, I can make that at home.
Yeah.
We're all the same, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Take a photo of it instead and then go and make it at home.
Exactly.
Terrible. I'm a terrible customer.
Rhonda says, I really like how Jan works on a project, one thing at a time, very clear and concise. Kendall has a question. What do you use on the gold card to glue the pattern piece on it? So when you did...
The matting and layering?
Matting and layering.
I actually stuck with my tape pen.
Because there's no wet glue?
Just because it was going on to the mirror card. I stuck with my tape pen, yeah.
Okay. Mary Pat 1000 says, absolutely gorgeous project, Jan. I'm excited to make this. Anne Clark says, brilliant tutorial. Thank you, Jan. I'll definitely give this a go. Sarah Ibbotson says, fantastic craft along, Jan. Your instruction is so clear. Thank you. I will be having a go at this project. It is so pretty. Barbara says, Jan, Corrine, I truly enjoyed this craft along. Jan, you have such a talent. Thank you so much for sharing the details and tips while creating this masterpiece. There you go, lots of love. And the final one I've got at the moment is Philip Watson. Quick question. Yep. Would a card loop and Velcro close it? Like hook and loop?
Yes. By all means, yeah. All I would do with that is maybe cut, I'll just use the pink because that's the bit I've grabbed. Cut a bit that's long enough to slot under the back here. So if you're going to put this piece on to cover the back, trap this bit underneath and then just bring it round. Let me move this out of the way. Yeah. And then your little bit of hook and loop underneath.
You see, I was thinking, open up the box.
Or you could just simply pop it here, yeah? You could put a little bit on the frame.
You've got enough width there just to put it there and put it there, haven't you?
Yeah, if you wish. Yeah,
I think,
so many different
ways. You got it right, a card loop. Because I did wonder what you meant by card loop.
Yeah.
I think you.
So again, just think about what your size needs to be. And I mean, it may be that you want to go from front, you know, have this trapped all the way underneath and make it a feature and it go from front to back. Or it may be that you want to secure it at the back and have this as a feature at the front. Yeah, but you could make it a little diary, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Where they often used to have the little closures like that, yeah?
There you go, Philip. You see, that's where inspiration comes from. Sometimes it's just something that somebody says and you think, actually, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to put ribbon on. I'm going to put hook and loop on. I'm going to put a card loop on. Lots of different ways. So thank you. Now, you have all been loving that. It's been the most fantastic 2 hours. It's flown past. So we will be back in 2 hours' time with our Colour Me Happy. It's all about mixed media. So the re-inkers, we've got some watercolour bits and pieces. So we've got quite a lot of projects for that. We don't need to do card of the show because I think you know which card of the show is going to be. Well, it's the only thing it can be, isn't it? So hopefully you can join us. Don't forget, go and have a look on our website. It's a taste of weekend all weekend, so your discount is 5% more than what you would normally get wherever you are on that scale or ladder. You've also got your 3 for 2 on your individual Spectrum Noir pens and re-inkers. You've also got 10% off your Spectrum Noir tools. And don't forget that Mother's Day offer is buy a gift voucher of at least £10 or euros, and you will get £5 or euros back as a voucher to spend yourself. So perfect way to give a little bit back. That'd be absolutely lovely. So we're going to go now. We will see you in 2 hours. Please come back because Jan is going to have so much more inspiration and, as you all love, so much more clear and concise tuition in 2 hours on our Colour Me Happy. So until then, have a lovely afternoon and we'll see you in a bit. Goodbye.